All right, Ian, take us on an adventure.
No.
I have a series of stringent rules involving the material composition of cakes, candies, and other dessert items. In the past, I've relied on a general rule: no hard things in soft things. But it has come to my attention that there are exceptions. In an effort to quell public fear of the unknown, I'm sharing the list with you, my friends. There are swear words in this manifesto, but it is important that you all know that I will bus those swears. Number 1, no nuts in cake. This is a simple rule and unbreakable. There is no present need for nuts in cake. And the taste sensation of biting into something hard while enjoying the smoothness of something velvety soft is something that should be able to avoid with a minimum of fuss and outrage. There are cakes that have whole nuts in them, cakes that have broken nuts in them, and cakes that have ground nuts in them. These are illegal cakes. Number 2, no nuts on cake. Again, the stress resistance between the cake and the nuts is too great. There is also nothing visually appealing about thinly sliced almond, for example. It appears as if someone has gone and dumped a crate of Lee press-on nails over the top of an otherwise delicious confection.
Wow.
The configured nuts on cake consists of a thin layer of chopped nuts slathered on the side of a cake so it looks like gravel. This is easily scraped off and onto the closest wall or dog. Number 3, no nuts on pie. I don't see this much, but when I do, I take pause and gather my strength and remove the offending nuts in question. Why, I ask, an uncaring world, why does everything have to have so many god-bussing nuts on them?
Point of order.
Number 4, no nuts in pie. Unlike nuts in cake, nuts present a more complex dilemma. It's almost impossible to remove all the nuts in question in the first 2 categories of nuts in cake, the whole nuts and the semi-nuts. But with pie, it's a different story. It's just not worth the effort. If there are nuts hiding in the pie, you can bet I'll be somewhere else, and I will leave no forwarding address for the odd pie chock full of nuts. Number 5, and editor's note, the one I feel the most strongly about, no nuts in brownies. I cannot even begin to enumerate the experiences I've had encountering nuts in brownies. These are the nut-infested brownies that escape careful and prolonged visual inspection, usually with a layer of clear fluorescent glass between my eyeballs and the object in question. I always follow up my examination with a great question posed to the confectioner. Are there nuts in this brownie? I don't know why I bother. Invariably, the answer is no, and invariably, I've just purchased a bussing nut brownie. Now, I'm starting to understand why people freak out for trivial things. What you're seeing is a lifetime of disappointment and frustration finally breaking free and taking majestic flight. Number 6, no nuts in ice cream, the ultimate soft confection marred forevermore by the presence of nuts. It will not happen on my watch. It will not happen ever. Being resourceful, I can dig around for nuts like an inverse treasure hunt and be somewhat satisfied. Finally, number 7, nuts on ice cream. Okay, with restrictions. Here, I'm thinking of those Nut Buddy cones and the sprinkling of ground cashews on top of them. Combined with the hard chocolate coating, these nuts please me. While on this topic, though, it seems important to mention that hard ice cream cones are okay, and the ability to eat a food's own container trumps the hard versus soft problem by about 50 times. But the cone becomes softer chronologically. I'm still developing this list. It seems to be an infinite amount of foodstuffs to which one can add nuts. Finally, let me wrap this up with a conversation I had with my mother about a year ago. Mom, I made a cake for your birthday. Wow, what kind of cake is it? It's a carrot cake with white icing. It's got nuts in it. Great. What? No, that's good. You're the one who doesn't like nuts. It's fine. You're my mother. Thank you.
There was so much wrong with everything you just said, but that's okay.
So who wrote that originally?
That was a gentleman, I'm assuming, known as Card House.
All right.
Yeah, back in 2002.
So I don't agree with all of it, but I have some strong agreements in there. Like the last point about like ice cream. I agree about nuts in ice cream, but like a nut fudge sundae with as the manifesto says, with nuts upon it, I'm a big fan of. Strong agree about brownies. Just because
agree about brownies.
Because they're usually walnuts.
Yeah.
And if you're using walnuts, you should be using pecans, and nobody does.
I think, like most manifestos, it is a good starting point that requires some good conversation to actually get to the real truth behind the matter. Because, like, nuts in pie, well, you probably don't need them much, but that does trip into the area of pecan pie, which is a fully nut pie, but is fantastic.
Yep. Pecans belong in pie. No nuts belong in brownies. Brownies are meant to be fudgy. The moment you put nuts in there,
Jordan, I got you.
changes the textural experience of a nice fudgy brownie, and it becomes a crunchy brownie. And brownies are not meant to be crunchy.
Like in the 18 years since this manifesto has been written, I've softened my stance a bit, but
I love this. The whoever was in chat that was like they hated him because he spoke the truth.
Ah, yes. Sorry. There's two people right next to each other. Matt is correct. Matt is very wrong. Yeah, the 2020 mood. That is those two lines right next to each other.
I am just happy to have been able to read that again. 18 years later.